Good morning, everyone. A very warm welcome to this Proudly South African webinar. Today we'll be looking at unlocking business value with AI, right? And then we'll also be looking at the practical strategies to this. So I am Dr. Mina Nhlekhoza. Good morning, everyone. A very warm. Sorry, technical issues there. So I'm Dr. Mina Nhlekhoza from the University of Johannesburg, Department of Biotechnology and Food Technology, right? So I'll be your facilitator today as we navigate this important discussion, right? And then we are very glad that you are able to join us as we explore how we can practically leverage AI to drive growth and efficiency. So please feel free to also share your thoughts with us online using the hashtag #BuyLocal to create jobs, right? And also please tag Proudly South African on Twitter. You can also tag us on Instagram as well as Facebook. So our Twitter handle is @ProudlySA, small letters. Everything is small letters there. And then on Instagram, we are @proudly.sa. So a capital letter P, and then everything else is small letters. And then if you want to interact via Facebook, it's Proudly South African. So the full width, that's where you will be able to join us. So now we are going to introduce Proudly South African through a very short video. Please pay attention. Thank you.
There's a voice that is calling, loudly calling, day by day, the voice of the future.
When I started my business, all I wanted was to create jobs and a legacy for the next generation because I see opportunity when others see impossibility.
It all started with a thought and then a seed in the garden, which grew into my very own farm that feeds the whole nation daily.
Cotton, silk, and a little bit of treasure, I create masterpieces that give South Africans an identity, comfort, and confidence, because when you look good, you feel good.
From the factory workers to the warehouse and then over the seas, I want to show the world what Proudly South African looks like. It all started with just some ink on paper and inspiration to bring people together. With my furniture, I now help create spaces that are beautiful, comfortable, and authentic to human light and connection.
I've always been driven by curiosity. It fueled my dreams to create automobiles that accelerate our nation into greater possibilities and the beauty of the unknown.
I was born into a rainbow nation. My life has been full of colors and mixed flavors. And when I started my bakery, I wanted to share that joy with the world and with South Africans in particular.
All I ever dreamt of was to be a bird and fly high. And now I have the wings to help others fulfill their dreams of flying high too.
But it can only be a dream until you make it a reality. All they need is your faith, your trust, your loyalty, your appreciation.
And most importantly,
Your support.
because supporting local businesses
Helps create jobs
And secures our future.
South Africa, their future is in your hands. So what are you going to do about it? Be proudly South African. Buy local to create jobs.
Hey. Right. as you have listened to the video, I'm sure you'll agree with me that today's session ties directly to the Proudly South Africans mission, right? And with our topic on artificial intelligence, I think we can all agree that artificial intelligence is no longer a futuristic concept. It's here and it's reshaping how business operates. So our focus today is not only on the complex theories around AI, but we will be talking practical strategies of how South African businesses, particularly your small to medium enterprises, can use AI tools to improve efficiency, automate tasks, transform data into actionable insights, as well as stay competitive, right, in this rapidly changing economy, because at the end of the day, if you are in business, you are trying to make an income. So I will be introducing our first speaker for the day, which is Mr. Raphael. I will read his very long and interesting bio just now. So Mr. Raphael Sigel is a software developer and a business owner with a passion for legal technology. He is a Vet Tech graduate with a major in common business-oriented language. Raphael's career took a pivotal turn in 1991 when he transformed from COBOL to Visual Basic 3, right? Likening the experience to moving from silent films to talkies. So in 1991, Raphael co-founded eBMA Systems, delivering sales and CRM solutions to the motor industry, with early clients like BMW South Africa, BMW Dubai, and today EBAM is the leading sales and marketing systems for all VW and audio dealerships in South Africa. So in 2006, he became the business director at Legal Interact. He is the co-founder of Contract Corridor, an AI-driven contract lifecycle management solution, and My AI Lawyer, an AI legal capital. He is also part of Legal Instructs, which is a Microsoft ISV, right? And they were also honored as the 2024 Global Partner for the Year for Inclusion Changemakers for its AI innovations. So Mr. Raphael will be speaking on boosting productivity and efficiency with AI. So a guide for SMEs. Mr. Raphael, you are welcome.
Good morning. Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
I see the share. If you could just confirm for me when you're able to see it.
Okay, not yet. It's coming through. Perfect. I can see now.
Brilliant. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to present Contract Corridor. I think in terms of just talking about AI, we're at such an exciting stage. You know, when we think of AI, we're like 2 years into this journey, so it really is at the beginning. And so thank you for giving us the opportunity to present some real case scenarios that we've had the privilege of working with. I think 2 points I want to make is one is the award we won was a Global 2024-2025 from Microsoft for the work we've done enabling AI services. And that's all around legal regulation and regulation. You are able to use that if you wanted to. You could go www.askmyailawyer.com or www.askmyailawyer.co.za, and it will route you into a WhatsApp platform where you can ask any of your legal related questions. The second part, and that's what I'm really going to focus on, has been Contract Corridor, and it's about really how do we get people to work, and we do it through contracts. So for us, it was really, really a profound experience being able to enable organizations to contract in a more efficient and a more friction-free way. So it's really about where do contracts start, how do we sign them, how do we manage them, and how do we make sure everyone's delivering in relation to contracts. The promise we make is really turning contract promises into business value, and that's what we do at Contract Corridor. Contract Corridor is a division within Legal Interact. So it's been around for some time. Legal Interact's been around for some time, as you heard from the doctor, and we focused on legal tech. So 4 or 5 years ago, we started to really see how we could connect our clients to their clients. And so what I'm showing you today is a SMC specific solution, multi-tenanted contract lifecycle management component. What we've learned over the last few years, before we talk about AI, is we've learned that most people aren't able to both draft, negotiate, operate, and then manage their contracts in an appropriate way. As a consequence, what we've learned is that PwC, McKinsey, and Forbes all say that organizations lose about 9% of the contract value through managing or mismanagement of contracts. And so when we start to think about what are the ways in which they mismanage contracts, it's the ability to manage your renewals, to manage your rebates, to know what your obligations are, your indemnifications. And then if you're actually doing all of that work, to make sure that you can get the benefit and enable your organization to make strategic decisions from the actual clauses you've negotiated. When you deal with contracts at scale, whether you talk about your employment contracts, or you talk about your supplier contracts, or you talk about your buy-side contracts, sell-side contracts, they are all different and they all have different kinds of clauses. To manage the obligations in the contract is very, very complicated as you add more contracts. And so what AI has allowed us to do is allowed us to take any kind of contract, and we've identified about 144 so far, and we're able to extract your legal clauses, your commercial clauses, relationship clauses, and we're able to extract that data, which means that very quickly we can not only summarize it, but get your data points out, get your risks out, tell you what your clauses are and what the insights are around those clauses. And we use AI for all of that work. And we're able to process roughly about 5,000 contracts in 24 hours. So immediately you can stand up your solution. And if you've got more than 5,000 contracts, then it may take 2 days. But otherwise, we ingest all your contracts and we're able to see what that information looks like. And I'll show you what that looks like as an example. When we think about contracts, and just to kind of just explain where we focused, we're focused on both your pre-signature process and your post-signature process. Your pre-signature process is who's asking for a contract, how do they draft these contracts, how can we support you with language that is aligned to what you've previously accepted, what's in your third-party contract, how do you want to do the review. We've got a whole risk framework that comes with the system. When you're ready to negotiate, sign the contract, we've got online negotiation components. What we do know is everyone negotiates with Word. They then distribute that Word through Outlook. And so that makes it very unsecure. The documents are floating around. You don't know what's been changed. So how do you manage all of that? And we've got a really wonderful solution on that part. Then when we come into organizations, they obviously have lots of contracts lying around. And so the ability to load those contracts and extract those clauses and those data points is super important, because you need to ensure that your business can perform vis-a-vis the obligation embedded in the contract. And so once you've got that, then we've got these events that will automatically trigger off and notify you that you've got this obligation to do. So when you think about that, if you've got a lease and the lease has an end date, and if you want to make sure that you don't lose your lease, you need the system to remind you what that lease end date is. And that's exactly what we do. Once we've got the pre-signature and post-signature, and these are workflows that actually support the solution, around it, we've thought about AI. And we started with AI about 5 years ago when we were talking about RNNs and CNNs. And the world changed when large language models came through. So the way we like to think about AI is we like to think AI needs to make sure that it helps us in one of these areas. It either helps us from a productivity perspective, meaning that if I've got a contract, I can draft relatively easy because I've got previous drafts available. Or if I want to extract fields from a contract, I can extract those fields. AI, when we talk about these frontier models, it's very, very prone to hallucination. And the reason it hallucinates is because that's what it's designed to do. It's designed to think about what the next words are. And so it adds those words that you've currently given it, gives some context, and it hallucinates. So for us, the concept of fine-tuning and actually getting the model to really be strong and really be focused on delivering a result is super important. So around productivity, it's about extraction or helping me review the actual contract. The second part we want to focus on from an AI perspective is customer experience. And what would that look like? It would mean, that it's multimodal. You can talk to it. It can see, it can do speech. And all of those things become really important as we start to serve not only internal customers, but external customers through chatbots or questions and answers. So the customer experience is the next part of what AI has to deliver for us. The third part is content creation. And so when we want to draft any kind of letter, it needs to help us and understand what our brand identity is, what our value set is, how we think about solving the problem. And so for us, that's a very, very big part of that experience. And then lastly, process automation, the ability to understand semantically what's meant. If I said that I wanted to exit my current lease agreement, or I wanted to sublet it, and these are areas where it needs to be able to automate those kinds of function points so that we can really get the best out of our contract set. When you talk to the business, we talk about intake, who is asking for these contracts, where is that information coming from? Drafting, where are your templates, how do we handle them? Enabling you to actually make sure your templates are up to date and represent the correct deliverables as per your organization. Review the way in which you want to consider third-party contracts. How do you handle risk? How do you handle insight into clauses? How do you respond when you actually are required to indemnify the customer that you're working with? And then collaborate and sign, not having to take that document and put it into email, not having to mail it around. So how do we make that online real time? And then managing obligations of contracts. So once you've got a contract that's signed, what do you need to do to make sure that you stick to the letter of the law of the contract and you can make sure that contract actually performs? Whether you've got a requirement to send a notification or a service report every month to a customer, or you've got to manage certificates, insurance certificates, and send it out, the ability to actually automate that. Behind all of this, we have this concept of a risk review. So if you want to consider how to review contracts from a financial, operational, reputational perspective, we continuously are enhancing that information. And then, of course, the way to visualize and report through dashboards and reporting. So for us, AI has really been fantastic because not only has it allowed us to create 2 new businesses from Legal Interact's original experience set. One is Contract Corridor. And so if you just look back over time, the way in which contracts are formed is really complicated. Contracts are on paper. They're possibly siloed in people's emails or filing cabinet. We all know that we spend lots of time chasing these signatures and managing expiries. And then teams are all over the show. So it takes multiple people lots of time to actually formulate and finalize a contract. The problem is when there are lots of people and there isn't integration with tools and you cannot find the contract, it takes a long time to get those contracts signed and working. For us, what's really important, and we think for South Africa what's really important, is the ability to get contracts done really easily so everyone can get to work. And we found that actually the ability to think about contracts in the world of digital transition, where you can adopt a contract lifecycle management solution, that you've got a safe and secure way and place to store all your contracts, that you can get to them automatically and easily, and that actually it reminds you what you need to do, would be something that would be really valuable. And hence we built the system for both enterprise and for SMCs, and I'll show you what we're doing. So we don't believe it's just AI is just a point of hype. We really are excited about what we've been able to do, and we've had some wonderful successes in taking the product out. Let me show you what the product does. It is available on Microsoft Marketplace, and that means that it's been credited and been reviewed, that we have ethical and responsible AI built into the solution, and it's been validated through the Microsoft platforms. So let me show you what happens. You could sign in with your Microsoft account if you do have one. If you don't, you can set up online with your account. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take a contract that's been signed, and I'm going to upload that contract into the repository. So instead of just thinking about the contract just being stored in some OneDrive or your email or your C drive, you actually upload it into a repository, and it will automatically stand up the system with these 144 contract types. And I like to think of it as a real-time antivirus program for contracts, warning you about what the risks are that are in your contracts and what the obligations are that are there. What happens is the contract will then go up into the AI platform on Microsoft Azure. So we're fully POPI compliant. We're also ISO 27001 compliant. We're SOC 2, GDPR. So all of the data the sovereignty is still sitting in South Africa, which means that that's really important, encrypted at rest, fully secured, and it will start the extraction. We can, as I said, we can handle 5,000 contracts in 24 hours. It will load the contract. The first thing we'll do is we'll summarize the contract for you. And the summarization is not a summarization that is just going through chat. It's summarization specifically focused on contracts. In this example, the lease agreement. So we're identifying how we would want to summarize the details in a lease agreement. And so when you actually look at it, this lease agreement happens to be within the jurisdiction of Greece. So the actual reminders will be connected to the public holidays and work days of that environment. So you don't get reminded late, and it's done within either the business days or calendar days for the jurisdiction you're working in. We'll work out who the tenant is. Not only will we be able to extract that information, who the tenant is, who the landlord is, we're able to identify where on the page that information comes from. And that's really important when we start to send out the notifications around obligations embedded in contracts, or certificates or licenses, because you're going to want to know, where did that actual instruction come from? That I need to submit this report, or I need to submit a certificate. And so the system will extract all of this data, and you can actually see here we're extracting dates. It doesn't really matter to us if it's 25/11/2024 or 11/25 November or November 25, 2024. We're very capable of translating all the dates. We're also very good at extracting information that's handwritten. So old contracts, we've been running tests against old contracts, handwritten. We can detect if all the pages of a contract are being uploaded. This is what we find, that often when you're looking for the contract, it's missing pages or it's not fully signed. Those are parts that we can pick up. And what you're seeing here is we have about 89 different fields that we would want to extract when looking at a lease. So if you think about a lease, we have 89 fields. If you think about an SLA, service level agreement, we've got different fields. And not only will we be able to pick up that information, but we can see if contracts are an amendment or replacement of a specific other contract, and you can link them. You also can deal with what we'd call back-to-back contracts, or if there's an MSA, and so you wanted to have contracts that are linked to the MSA, you'd be able to link those statement of works to the MSA. What you're seeing here is the ability to extract the lease amount. We're also the ability to pick up your deposit. So if you had a deposit and you wanted to make sure in the future that your deposit would be in a trust account earning interest, you would be able to embed that in how we evaluate it, and we'd be able to pull that data through for you. So you'll see that we're pulling through, the costs, in this case, the deposit. We also recognized that there was some data that we didn't have in terms of the operating costs. So we'll actually go and manually add that data in. And once we add the operating costs in, it will know to extract that information for us in the future. So you can see us grabbing the operating cost value, and so it will run through. As we run through this process, where it starts to get quite exciting is the data points and the reminders are now going to be all connected to these prices that we've ingested, with associated workflows to notify people that they may need to take some action. Let's run that through. Okay, so as we run through, the area I really get most excited about is related to managing the clauses that are embedded in the contract. So if you look at session and assignment, applicable legislation, breach of contract, what we'll do is we will extract the information on all the pages. Very often you don't find that, a limitation of liability clause typically starts at one point and ends at another. It's on multiple pages, and you've got to try to work out where all that information is. Not only will we be able to extract the actual clause, but what we've got is a dictionary that will give you insights to what is meant by this particular limitation of liability. And if we look at a force majeure, which we go into a bit of detail, when you click on the side, it will take you to the location of where that information comes from. So we're extracting all of this. As I said, we've got about 144 contract types. All the extractions are in excess of 90%. We know exactly what fields we're getting what percent on. We also know how we want these contracts summarized. And you'll see when we actually start to look at the insights, you'd be able to get an output on each contract that actually would tell you, this is what's in the contract. These are the insights we can give you. And if you wanted to build up some more information, you'd be able to add to it at any point in time. The fine tuning on the actual models is fully focused on South Africa and Africa. So we've layered on top of the current models a mechanism to actually focus on contracts that are, typical or related to our jurisdiction. So that's really important. Being aware of obligations like POPI, data sovereignty is built into it as well. And when we start to move to risks, you could start to evaluate contracts at physical risks, process risks, financial risks. All of that would come through. What we are learning is organizations historically would just store their contracts in on their OneDrive, on their wherever it might be. But you now have this real valuable tool that you can put all your contracts in, that you can upload, and it will remind you. As soon as we actually activate the contract, this is just to illustrate what's happening. It all can be done just through a bulk upload that you don't really see this. But what you're seeing is that there's a full workflow sitting behind the tool. And so in this example, when we're talking about a lease and we're talking about coming to an end, what you'll see is that there's a renewal review process. That renewal review process has a whole workflow that will send all the tasks to specific people, and then it will escalate. Once the contract's actually been ingested, you can see the information on the right-hand side. You can see that what it will do is it'll actually activate the contract, and it will then send you a term sheet for that contract. So let's let that run through. We've also identified that you can upload all your contracts in one file suite, and then it would allow you to visualize and see that information in your dashboard through the system. So once on activation, I'll generate a term sheet, and the term sheet then will include all of the key data points that we've extracted. You can turn them off if you don't need some of the data points. You can add more if you need more, and so that will send you the actual contract in a term sheet example. Where are we moving with AI? And so I haven't put the dashboards and that in, but I thought what I would talk to is where is the future of AI moving to? And let's talk about agentic AI. And I think that's kind of on the, it's what everyone's talking about. And so agentic AI is enabling a user to be able to ask questions for questions we haven't programmed the solution to handle. And so here's an example where someone's asked for a list of sponsorship agreements. I'm using my Outlook add-in. So it's actually picked up that I want to analyze my mail. It's picked up the mail. It's seeing which agreements are part of the sponsorship agreement. And so it gives me this particular list. Then what I can do is if it had some further thoughts, it would have asked me, do I want someone to take some further actions? So it didn't have, and I actually asked it to please give me a list of of the tasks, of the sponsorship agreements, and set up tasks for the sponsorship team to make sure they've reviewed them in 3 weeks. And so this is where the agentic flow starts to kick in. It knows who the actual sponsorship team is. And you can see we're just talking to it in a natural way. So I'm heading off to find out who the actual sponsorship team is. It picked up that some people in my business are part of that team. It's scheduling activities for them. And then what it'll do is it'll ask me some other questions, and we'll see this go through the process as it is. So, do I want it? It's gone and scheduled the task for them. And then it was asking me, do I want to notify them? Do I want a follow-up meeting? And I didn't tell it to do it for the 15th of September. I just said, do it for 3 weeks' time. And it worked out the business days. It worked out who the right people were. And you can see that it's actually now scheduled those tasks and sent it to them. We do think the future of all of this is people will be using super apps, whether it's Outlook or WhatsApp, integrating with the information they have, both to, in the future, draft contracts, negotiate contracts, and or manage those contracts. So maybe in the future, the negotiation of contracts will be done through our AI conscience, and it will actually then make it happen for us. I think just to tell you where we are right now, and I'm aware of time. So processing performance, 3.5 contracts per minute at about roughly 5,000 full-length contract, 24 hours. We're 90% accurate with fields, clauses, insights, and risks. So we've got 143 contract types, 16 super categories. Each contract type has insights that are really relevant to it. And we're very happy to ingest any kind of document, PDF, image, and we can scale it. And with that's a thank you, and thank you for the opportunity to present, and any questions that I can help answer.
Okay, Raphael, thank you so much. That was very interesting, especially because I also do work in regulations. So now I'm just thinking of how this use of AI simplifies all of these documents, how hard it is to go through regulatory documents. And what I've learned is that through your system, it means people don't even need to reinvent the wheel because the system is already there. They can bring their contracts, plug them in, and then use them. Maybe during the Q&A question, I'll then come back with my question because I do have a question for you. But thank you so much. That was so insightful in terms of automation, right? Content creation. I think probably most ears went wide open when you started mentioning how you can create your contents for your legal documents. Or maybe let me just ask the question now before I forget it. So if I'm a small business holder, right? Let's say I've just started my business, so it's like 5 years old now. where exactly do I access your platform? Do I need to be, I heard that you were mentioning that you are ISO certified. Do I need to be ISO certified? Do I need to have a business plan? Like, does my business need to be a registered business, tax paying? What are the requirements of using the app basically? And where do I find it?
So you find the app at cm.contractcorridor.com. It's a self-sign, so you can sign up on the app. And in terms of actual certification, that's on us. We ISO 27001 certified. We continuously are going through penetration tests and having that validated. So from a trust perspective, we spend a lot of time and money and effort on that, so it's fully curated. And then in terms of you needing to sign up, you don't need certification, you don't need any of the information. You can sign up, put your details in. We have a 30-day trial period. We have a customer success team that will reach out and help you just to understand how to deal with these signed contracts. So for small to medium enterprises, we have a really, really good site, good solution that lets you scale and grow as you need to.
Thank you so much for that. I believe that the people who are tuned in have also taken note of that, and hopefully they will be visiting their website and take advantage of your platform, right? If you are on Instagram and you want to interact or engage, please remember the handle is at proudly.sa, right? And then the P is a capital letter, everything else is a small letter. If you are on Facebook, it's Proudly South African. And if you are on Twitter, it is at Proudly SA. Twitter is now called X. Yeah, so if you are on X, I'm old school, so then you can catch us there. All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Raphael. I will be then introducing our next speaker, who is Udokotela. Right. So we have Dr. Vuyo. We have Dr. Vuyo Yokwe, who is a medical doctor, a mental health advocate, and he's also a sought-out speaker. I'll just read his bio for us so that you get more information about him. So Dr. Vuyo is a highly regarded keynote speaker. He's a medical doctor and a medical health advocate with a focus on men's health and wellness. With extensive experience in the medical field, and a deep commitment to promoting mental well-being. Dr. Yokwe empowers individuals to prioritize their health and lead fulfilling lives. So he did also add a story about himself. So following his journey through depression, alcohol dependency, and stigma associated with mental health issues, Dr. Yokwe attributes his recovery to the support of his mother. At the time, he was a clinical manager at the Health Institute of Eastern Cape. Noticing his declining social drive and deteriorating self-care, his mother courageously approached his CEO, advocating for the necessary support that led to his recovery. This experience inspired Dr. Yokwe to help more men fulfill life and live life to the fullest by promoting mental health awareness. He is a practicing medical doctor with nearly 2 decades of experience in both private and public health sectors. His compassion, storytelling, and insightful content makes him a sought-after speaker on topics related to mental health, self-care, and overall well-being. So, for today's webinar, he will be giving insights on providing convenience and efficiency in healthcare using AI. Dr. Yokwe, I think you
Good,
can lead
good.
us.
Yes, man. Good day. How is everything? Good?
Yeah, all good. I think even the people online are all good.
Lovely. I'm just going to switch off the camera because there is an issue with my connection, if you don't mind from that side.
No problem.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I don't know half the stuff that you write there. Somebody gets to write it for me, so I get to listen and hear of it, sort out speaker and all of those kind of things. So I really can't attest to some of it. But yeah, I would like to think that this is a beautiful opportunity. And everybody of us is someone who is a client one way or the other within the medical health and health space. So this conversation really is a conversation that really needs to go into people. They are exposed to AI, they are exposed to all of the large language models now that we see, for instance, ChatGPT. They ask questions. So if a person comes to me, I already know that there's probably something that they know better than myself. I have not even looked at. So that's the beauty of what the information age is giving us. So this then drives us to say, what are we doing as the Department of Health of South Africa? How are we advancing ourselves into knowing more, right? Here's something that I'm going to quickly let you know. Us as clinicians, and I'm sure all of the other colleagues now, because we're talking about something that one thing, will attest to saying they don't see much of doctors within collaboratives. They don't see many of the doctors within, businesses and similar webinars or conversations like this. But then the one thing in South Africa, what we need to sort of also bring through is that the AI space has not been utilized, and in as much as the people are ahead on are knowledgeable of it. Now, the diagnoses are there. We do know from studies that about 90% of the information that one draws out of the language models, ChatGPT and others, is information that is the newest information, and perhaps that I myself have to go and have a read before I'm able to engage at times, especially if I'm not an expert in a particular fraternity space. Now, why should the government be at the forefront of having this done? So we definitely know that we need to improve lives of the people that we talk to. They are known as patients to us, but these are really the uncles, mothers, sisters to their family people. That improve the time to sort out the problem and the diagnostics. Now, we know that our hospitals have got an overflow of patients. The numbers are quite high, and that, for instance, a specialist who is a radiologist. This is a person who is an expert in reading X-rays, for instance, is only one in covering a huge hospital. Now, this person, let us say, goes for a leave. Now, what happens is that the CT scans, the chest X-rays that have been taken for different patients will now have to wait, increasing the waiting times for the people who need to access the care. Now, we have then lots of people dying while waiting. And so AI provides an opportunity for quicker diagnostics, because then the accuracy is amazing. There is a study in my digital health studies. Oh, before I go there, I just need to have a disclaimer that I don't yet work with any artificial intelligence or digital space in South Africa. I still work with men, and the fact that they don't want to speak about their issues pertaining to mental health, suffering in silence. And so one of the things,
Dr. Via,
Hello.
sorry to interrupt you. I'm getting feedback from the people who are joining online that something is wrong with your audio. It seems like they can't hear properly.
Okay. So, can you, is there any change from your side now?
I'll wait for
Because-
feedback.
Okay, I think we will weigh it against you because then there isn't much I've done, or I think I can improve. So yeah, maybe let's probably go on and see what we can do there. So we've got those challenges. We've got numbers. We've got a promising, use case improvement with what we have in AIs. So I was still saying before we spoke that before there was an issue, that I don't yet work with a government entity or a system that has the data and digital improvement, as far as clinical. But I am an MBA in digital business, and therefore also interested in mental health and the suffering in silence. So one of the thoughts with colleagues is to get an app, because now there's lots of apps, but now we're going to be talking something in the large language modeling. What if this man who is suffering in silence, what if this woman who is not going to work, and this child who's feeling ununderstood, just gets into press into an app that has got an understanding of ChatGPT, and gets information and really gets to let them know that, listen, this might be happening. You might be having a major depressive disorder. But as of now, as a chatbot, I am able to give you real-time de-escalating measures. You're having an anxiety, and you've entered, you've got a login, you've got your user information. They know about you, and you've fed this, because this is what we know about these language modalities or ChatGPTs. And at the back end, we have engineers that teach it multiple situations and clinical cases in the space of health, and then they are able to provide solutions. They're also able to be problem solving. So as of now, we in South Africa are having lots of red tape. We don't have regulations yet, but we do know that there are people who would be showcasing their new AI material that is able to diagnose, but is able to help you de-escalate yourself. And one of the things is that people who have major depression and issues at the time, by definition, don't want to speak to anybody. And if there is a form of a model that is able to help you much better than the doctor that you are having to first have an appointment for, be in a waiting area and a waiting time for, be in a public hospital that has got an overload, then you are able to just get into a space and have a knowledge of what it is that is happening to you, and possible problem solutions to it. So in South Africa, unfortunately, we are yet to incorporate this into the Department of Health. And in my study, we do understand that there's a Spanish it's a research institute that has one of these language models, and an AI model, but it's a computer vision, and that is able to have a look at the retina, a component of the eye, the back component of the eye, not only just diagnose issues with the eye, but is able to
Thank you, Dr. Vuyo. That was very insightful. As you are speaking about AI and you being somebody who's in the medical field, and as you've mentioned that not a lot of medical practitioners are taking advantage of AI. I'm just having now questions in my mind and or thoughts rather, to say that I'm wondering or I'm envisioning where we are going with AI, like a time where maybe AI can maybe help close a gap in terms of long waiting times for patients in overcrowded hospitals, because sometimes that happens, especially in the public ones. Or will it also help us maybe with closing a gap when there are too few specialists? I heard you mentioning something about maybe having one radiographer in a hospital, right? Or somebody who did, radiography. So I'm just wondering if there's opportunities even there to close those gaps. And then my question to you is, I think you've mentioned that AI can be a buddy for people who are suffering from depression or with depression or living with depression. So meaning that maybe it can help those who are suffering in silence. But now, if that's the case and it can be used like that, why is it that most doctors or healthcare practitioners or professionals are not involved in AI at the moment?
A quick answer to this is we sort of think that what we have, maybe let me phrase it this way. Have you gone into a doctor's room and you sort of told him what you think you have because you Googled it, and they come around at you quite frustrated with you and tell you that, are you the doctor or am I the doctor? I hear stories like that. So I'm not sure if it is resistance to the kind of change, or utilizing or not knowing the strides or what we know in our heads, right? And now perhaps there is this next information or person who sort of is taking a space in our prod. I don't know. But what we also do have in medicine is very complicated, complex machinery right? We've got lots of diagnostic systems. And, we may think that we have it all, perhaps. And hence the government would say, oh, listen, for what we have, we would still score quite a lot in managing those waiting times. But for now, we probably don't have a budget because we've just bought a 3 million CT scanner, something in that way of thinking. Now, these complex machines we have, they are just short of process of having an AI model. If you're looking at a car, what happens to that car if you've got a 16-year-old who is able to drive but does not have a license? And now there is a person who is sick and needs to go to a hospital. Now that person, it's illegal for them to drive, or maybe they have not even learned driving. Now, models like that, a car as a model, can or definitely add intelligence to it, because it is able to sort out a task of taking a person from point A to point B. But why does it have to wait for the person to have to drive it? And then artificial intelligence says, oh, okay, we've got this very complex system in a car, but now let's just teach it self-driving. Now that's exactly what we need to scale up and do with what we already have in the machinery, in our diagnostic systems. We just need to make it have its own artificial learning. That the next person who, when they're on leave, the automacy is not stopped. So that's what we need to do. That's a big question to say. Why utilize very expensive, complicated machines and not just get them into the drive of AI? That's what we need to do. And it will, I mean, in what you are envisioning, it's a world that's going to be something else, man. And there's this, debate to say, is it going to take our jobs? It is not about that. It is about the health, especially here in health. It is about the livelihood of the next person. It is about them getting sorted out when we cannot. So we need to ask that question. That the more it is asked out, and especially by the clinicians, then the more the government has to put in money and get it working.
Thank you so much, Dokotela. That was very insightful. I think people at home, those who are joining from social media, or even those who are here with us via Zoom, have learned. I think you've also provoked our thoughts in that regard. Thank you. Okay, and I'll be introducing our third speaker. His name is Bukosi Sambo. So he is a global multi-award winning executive, a change agent, a strategist, and a thought leader. He specializes in AI, data management, and technology management. So under technology management, this includes digital, cloud computing, cybersecurity, IT governance, IT ops, and architecture. He also leads implementation of technology and data strategies to ensure return on investment from information assets for digital and business transformation. And then he serves as a group CIO at PHA, STM Healthcare Invest, and Marara Group Advisory Board, Oxford University Executive AI Program Associate Educator. He's also a member of the South African National AI Strategy Recommendation Forum. He's part of the GETA Peer Ambassador, which is about data and analysis data and analytics community. He's part of Enterprise Big Data Ambassador. He's a mentor a keynote speaker when it comes to data and technology leadership, especially in conferences. He is qualified and certified in economic science, business administration, risk management, data management, AI cloud computing, digital, cybersecurity, machine learning, and leadership. He serves on boards and Lean Sigma. So Mr. Bukosi will be talking to us about data-driven decisions, right? So he'll be exploring with us how AI unlocks insights for South African businesses. Mr. Bukosi, welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Minetle. Hopefully I'm audible.
You are loud and clear.
Thank you so much. So I have asked the help of Monique in sharing my presentation. I've joined on my iPad device. So you can put up the presentation for me, Monique.
It's coming through.
Yep, you can see it. So thank you, everyone, and really appreciate the opportunity to just share some few thoughts around AI and what's happening and what it really implies for businesses in South Africa, but also just globally. But before I really jump into some of the specifics, I do want to take a step back and just make sure that when we talk about this AI, everyone really knows what we are talking about and why really we cannot longer afford to ignore it. So if you look at the agenda of my presentation today, I start by actually really making the case for AI. Because I think it is always important to start with the why, and then basically then outline why it's important for businesses to really participate in this journey, and how can you actually really participate in it in terms of actually really building AI systems. And how do you build AI systems that are actually fit for purpose for your businesses and actually take into consideration the context and the landscape that you sort of operate in. One of the most topical elements around AI implementation really is about the ethical implementation. So the guardrails that we put around being able to do this responsibly. I think if you are following the AI sort of topic, you will have picked up in the media some of the people that have even ended up in hot waters for reckless use of AI. But before we get into all of that, what actually is really AI? So one of the pioneer institutes of around AI work and AI research, which is the Alan Turing Institute, defines AI as the ability of machines to perform tasks that will typically require human intelligence. That's quite an interesting definition because it's like brings this question to say, will machines ever be as smart or even at some point in time outsmart human beings in terms of intelligence? And that is sort of like what we're going to explore in terms of actually when we start understanding the mechanics of AI, is AI as intelligent as we are, and can it ever be, and or is it already there and maybe in some instances already surpassed us? So that's quite an interesting topic. The interesting thing actually first is to start with how intelligence has evolved over the years. So typically in the olden days, the best form of getting intelligence, if you are myself and you're still maybe say young, you'll sit with people who have lived before you, right? Maybe your 60-year-old grandmother or grandparents, and try to collect as much of what their life experiences have been, because the longer you have lived, the more you have seen it all, inverted commas, and you will try to understand that so that you can have wisdom on how to live yourself going forward. Right? And that is sort of like what the source of intelligence in the ancient days was like. And then came encyclopedia, when these things was put into books and libraries, so that you kind of start being able to have this a source of information that people could go to understand how to really live. So that was the productionalization sort of like era. And then you got into more the Wikipedia, which started saying, okay, you've collecting all these books and everything. Now let's abstract intelligence and summarization, if you would call, out of this thing. And now because digital sort of like then came and said, no, actually we can digitize all these records and be able to start collecting all sorts of data from structured to unstructured data. Now we can even get better and build AI and have AI agents and automate intelligence. But actually, all that has happened, if you consider those 4 different eras, is that we have compressed the time that it takes for you to abstract intelligence to answer questions compared to how long it took our grandparents years ago, right? But the key risks, and also listening to the previous speakers around this kind of thinking that everyone must be aware of, is that then now you've got these AI solutions, and there's a lot of talk around the generative AI or the large language modules. Is that it is actually really that it's able to look at vast amount of data that gives you an opportunity to conversate with you and ask it a question in a simple English. And that's why ChatGPT became popular, because for the first time, even if you are not Vukosu who's been trained in mathematics and stuff, you could actually interact with AI without necessarily needing to write some code in some French language. And with that, basically, what it does, it returns to you results based on the most probabilistic answer to your question, right? So it really goes and says, this is what Minetla is asking me. And based on the data that I've been trained on, I think this is the most accurate version of the answer, and it returns to you that. The danger with that is that it's looking at what it's been trained on to be able to give you that. And the challenge is also that even if it's not necessarily highly sure about the answer it's giving back to you, it gives you back something. And that's why people talk about hallucination. So part of the continued limitation is to say, when you get the response from ChatGPT, actually you don't really fully understand the degree of truth in it, right? That is the simple fact. And this thing is just a gigantic memory retriever of a larger amounts of data than what we've ever seen. But it doesn't change the fact that it is based on the data that has been given. And to give you a simple analogy of how that can be risky, so that we all approach AI in a smart way and use it in a way that benefits us, is that if I'm a bank and I'm trying to understand what kind of food products I can push to Minetla or Monique, and partner with Uber to get you to buy certain food items from certain stores, I'll go look at your bank transactions, right, in your bank statements from the background, on the back end. And say I don't find any transaction of you purchasing food on my bank account as FNB, Standard Bank, or whoever. Surely, if you're a rational person, you should be saying that it means Minenhle has got another bank account that she's using to buy food, or maybe she's buying food cash. But if you don't bring that context to how you build your AI, you'll conclude that Minenhle doesn't eat because I can't find transactions of food. And surely she wouldn't be sitting here with us, talking to us, unless if she's some super AI being herself that survives on something other than food and water. So this is quite important for all of us to understand the context of where we are and how AI is evolved and how we take it forward responsibly and not make schoolboy errors around how we implement it. So AI cannot be ignored because it's what we call general purpose technology. That's where the word GPT comes from. And what general purpose technology really is, colleagues, is that it is something that is pervasive. It's prevalent everywhere. It doesn't matter which sector you work in. I'm also in healthcare. There's no sector that you can tell me today that doesn't utilize this AI. And that is the one thing you look at firstly when you try to understand whether something is actually of high impact and also can be thought of as part of a bigger industrial revolution, and how you categorize industrial revolutions. The second part is that it brings this significant improvement in the way of doing life, not just for businesses, but for home. I mean, we are in this meeting now. We didn't have to spend money, travel from different locations to go meet at a venue that Minenhle and everyone else will need to pay for. to be able to have this session. So it has brought about improvement, efficiency, and quality that reduces the cost of use, right? And it enables other inventions. It allows people to innovate in the different sectors. I can innovate in how I provide care. You had Dr. Vuyo in the radiology space. We do that stuff. We get radiology images, put it through computer visioning to be able to be more accurate to provide diagnosis. So there are big opportunities, but in any other sector. So it drives innovation. So those are the three things you should always look out for to say, can I afford to ignore this? And those are the three things that are used to define industrial revolutions. And AI exactly fits that. And that is why if you look at a lot of studies, the one that is up here, it's a McKinsey study, talks about the fact that actually a significant portion of global GDP growth will come from AI. The estimation is between 12 to 18 trillion annually by 2030. Which even if you look at other studies, PwC, all other consulting houses, and even the World Economic Forum, that number is consistently similar. So colleagues, we are in the AI economy and you cannot afford to be participating in it. It's no longer an issue of if, it's an issue of how. It's an adapt or die situation. But you have to do it right. You mustn't do it because you think your friend next door is doing it or your competitor is doing it. You must have clarity of thought on how you can win with AI. If you can move to the next slide, Monique. Thank you. I'm not going to spend much time on this slide, but what we have really seen is that we have always lagged behind the developed nations in adoptions of technologies and other innovations if you take it back to all the other industrial revolutions. And again, we are at risk of also lagging these counterparts in terms of our adoption of AI. But the good thing about it is that if you look at digital penetration and devices that will power digital and AI usage, that at least is starting to improve. South Africa is in a much healthier state, but the rest of Africa still is seeing less than 60% penetration. But in South Africa, we are at least seeing over 90% of digital devices being used by people. But what you also want to see is the elements that support AI. So AI has three ingredients that go into it. It's data, it's computing, and it's algorithms. So computing has become such a big thing. That's why we've got these data centers, because to be able to train these smart models, you need vast amount of data. And that is where, from a capital perspective, we again are lagging behind our Western counterparts because they're able to train these models faster than we can. And we just go adopt them, the ChatGPTs, and they've not been trained with enough African or South African context, right? So that is where the risk is. And how do we start bridging that gap and adopting and taking advantage of what they've done, but make it relevant for us? But you can see that there's a good projection of the growth of internet access in Africa that I think will at least start getting us to where we want to be. Thank you, Monique. Cool. And like I said earlier on, it's not a question of if, but it's a question of how, and it has become an adopt or die. So this again is the projection from McKinsey that says those that do not adopt this thing, they actually risk going under. It's as simple as that. You don't have to really try to overly interpret these graphs, but it's saying that if you don't start adopting, what will happen to you between now and 2030 is that you will go under. And that is from the data that has been collected over the last 10 years up until now, and kind of like using that to sort of like project what we can anticipate going forward. Thank you. So how does this actual new economy really works? In the past, you just had a company that will just like feed as much of information, communication, and mass production to clients and hope that clients will respond, right? But this thing has now completely changed in what we call digital, and everyone is like, what is digital? There are literally 5 attributes that define the behavior of digital for everyone sitting in this room. It's about access. I want access on demand available for me. and I need to have that customized. It must be relevant for me. No one ever wants to log on to their banking app and see Vukosi's bank balance. You want to see yours so that you can make decisions, buy airtime, buy electricity, make a purchase, transfer, pay someone. And all of that, because these devices now are colliding and there are a lot of them, and we know how to make them speak to each other. They've exploded the amount of data that we are creating. And all that AI has been able to do is that you need to able to understand this data. And even if you are someone like myself who is a mathematician, the speed at which AI is able to understand vast amount of data compared to a human being is chalk and cheese, right? But it doesn't just understand it, it understands it to be able to give you patterns of opportunities that you can take advantage of to create value. So that is actually what AI translate into business value for businesses, is that there's this technology-led customer network effects of devices and digital happening that is creating explosion of data, and the one who understand that data better, which is where AI and machine learning comes in, to be able to spot opportunities, is the one that is best positioned to create the largest or extract the largest amount of value from their potential and existing customers. And that is how you link AI to business value. So now we're gonna go into a little bit of then detail to say, okay, then how do I build this AI system to understand this data, and how do I create a framework for the different set of opportunities that I can put on the table to give my company a competitive advantage in this game. You can go to the next slide. Cool. This one, we're not going to spend much time on it. It's just to give you a context to say we are currently creating 2.5 quintillion bytes of data daily. That is, quintillion is 18 zeros for those that are interested in what a quintillion is. So the amount of data that we are creating right now is actually greater than all the data that was created up until 2010. All of the data that was created and stored is equivalent to what we are creating now daily. That's how scary this exponential amount of data that we are dealing with has become. And if you also consider the fact that this is data that speaks to each other, if you look at health, Dr. Vuyo will tell you to say that someone's health needs to be understood over time. Generally, unless if it's an emergency ER situation, no one just wakes up and they need hospitalization. Something was missed in the primary care, they are specialists, or they were diagnosed with a chronic condition, they didn't take their meds and so forth, and they developed complications and they ended up in hospital. So when you take 2.5 quintillions of data points and you also try to create relationships amongst them, then that number is actually even much bigger. That's how scary the world that we live in now is. And that is why Microsoft, everyone, Google are putting billions of rands of dollars and dollars into data centers, because you want to capture this data to be able to harvest it and lead the race. Thank you. Can move to the next slide. But data by itself is meaningless, like I said, colleagues. And how do we move from data to information to knowledge to insights to wisdom? Because data is just that, right? And you start grouping it in what we call metadata, group the like data, and then start having knowledge to say, okay, this is data about Minehle and her last 20 doctor consultations. What does it tell me? I can see that in the last 2 years, she's been coming back more frequently and she's been having more and more complications. What is the wisdom? It means she's getting, her health is deteriorating. And how do I reverse that? That's when you start getting to wisdom and insights, because now you want to create an action that is inspired by data. So actually, AI is really more quest for meaning from data. And that's what we should be sort of like trying to achieve it. And there's nothing faster, better, and more accurate than AI that can help you analyze the amount of data that is available to get to that answer than AI. Thank you. And when you do that as an organization, what are the three main categories and their respective subcategories that you should be looking at? So I always actually, I'm from a company called Private Health Administrators. We do medical aid administration for Bonitas, but as part of the group, we also do work for GEMS, medical aid. And I always try to remind people to say, unlike Dr. Vuyo, we are not so much a health company as much as we are a data company. If you came to my office because you're unwell, I won't even probably know what to do with you. So companies like ours and your discoveries and your med schemes, your momentums, they are quite frankly data companies. They're just in the data of healthcare. They facilitate your access to care and make sure that it's funded. And they are no different as a result to an Uber or Airbnb. They don't own hospitals, they don't own doctors, they just look at data. That's why I say they are data companies and do what we call actuarial work and risk pricing to say we know how many people will be in hospital this month or today and which hospitals they will be in and how long they'll be in hospital for and how much it will cost us. So for us to be able to pay their claims and not run out of money, we need to make your medical aid premium 1,000 Rand or 2,000 Rand. And that's, we're actually in the business of data products. When you buy a medical aid product, you're buying a data product. It's actually really a promise and a peace of mind. You're not buying anything tangible. So that is why data is being used with combination of AI, actuarial, and analytics to sell data products. So yes, your medical aid is a data product. Without data, I will just thumbsuck and probably get it wrong. And when that happened, I try to facilitate your experience. Again, going back to the Uber example, you request your ride and you can see where the driver is and they are approaching you and how much you're going to pay for it, right? There's that transparency and you get into that Uber and there's a standard that you expect in terms of cleanliness, how the Uber driver drives, that you can rate him or her based on at the end of your ride. And as a result, it allows you to have a smooth, good experience ride. The car smells good and so forth. Because if it doesn't, you rate that guy lower, and tomorrow when there's a trip, you will be at the bottom of the ranks in the ability to get the trip. So that is how you use data and AI to really start driving user experience and bringing it closer to the customer from a user interface point of view. And obviously, as you know, probably everyone here in the room uses GPT or Gen AI, whether it's Gemini or whatever, Copilot, but it has improved your productivity. You're able to do that quick research to be able to put together a presentation or do whatever. But like I said earlier on when I gave the warning, do it safely. So that is the whole idea of, if you know how to use data to create new products, drive experiences, drive efficiencies, and manage your risk better as a business. Those are the areas where AI and data brings money to your business, not just doing AI because it's a buzzword. You need to be very purposeful to say business grow because revenue is going up or costs are coming down. That's the profit equation. There's never changed. AI will never change it. And revenue goes up when you sell more products or you price better. And costs go down when you become more efficient and when the experience of your users is great and it's create convenience and they're able to spread your weight out and you get more customers. It's as simple as that. The key concepts of finance and how to win in business don't change. It's more understanding how AI influence those levers that you can pull to help your business win. And this is quite an important framework. When you go to AI, before you go to AI, you need to know what you want to achieve at the product level, experience level, and efficiency and risk management level. Thank you. These are some of the use cases. Like I said, I'm in healthcare. Dr. Vuyo already spoke about some of the computer visioning. Some of the actually interesting work that we're doing on the drug discovery side of things is that obviously most of you, if you've got your headache now, you'll probably pass by Clicks or Discam or Mediride or whatever and say, give me some Panado. It's a fixed molecule of 10 milligram of paracetamol and so forth, right? But actually, your intensity of headache versus Minetle or Monique here in the call is different. Your genetics are different. Your age is different. So actually, how do you get to a point, particularly with the more complex cases like your chronic conditions, diabetes, cancer, and so forth, to be able to provide a more pinpointed amount of drug molecules and so forth that are required to treat that specific person based on their dynamics. And that is where things like quantum AI comes in, because actually the digital world, for those that have studied a little bit of computer, it's a 0-1 game. And now quantum economics also tells you what's in between the 0 and the 1. And that is why I said ChatGPT returns the answer to you, but it doesn't actually tell you the degree of truth or the degree of how confident it is in the answer. So you actually want that. Actually, you want these ChatGPTs to get to a point where they sometimes be honest with you when you ask it a question and say, I don't know. Now it has not been programmed to say, I don't know. It will always give you something. So those are some of the use cases that we are working on in the healthcare side, but you can see some of the other use cases across some of the different functions and sectors. But you want to get to a point where these things are fine-tuned and they are relevant to the realities of the world we live in. Can move to the next slide. And then, yeah, as I said, came this Gen AI, ChatGPT, I'll reference it. And boom, overnight, everyone in this room could do AI and thought they were an AI expert and they could talk to AI. And it's again because of that conversational approach to being able to interact with it, and it brought this convergence between data types, text, audio, video, and now you can generate a video. So that's the main thing that moved AI overnight from what it had struggled for decades to a moment of glory, because now this thing can be utilized by every other person. And that is what actually we are seeing now. And now obviously with ChatGPT 5, you've got your Sam Altman of OpenAI say this is like having a PhD in your pocket. But like I said, it isn't, because it still hallucinates, but we are getting closer and closer, and these guys are hard at work every day to fine-tune and fix this technology. Yeah, can move on. And then you've got AI agents. The interesting thing about these AI agents, and I'm going to start driving to conclusion now, is that now if you look at ChatGPT, it's still between you and the ChatGPT that you're interacting it. You ask it a question, it's a two-way conversation. But now you've got this thing where you can set up your workflow that agents can talk to each other. So you can literally string set of agents in a full process or in even multi-department that interact with each other to execute a full value chain value. And these things are autonomous. They are learning every day. They are, they've got a good memory. They react to external environment. So now we are starting to move to that scary world of like, geez, okay, will this thing really replace us in the organization or not? And you saw some of the prediction, and I think I've got it in my next slide. If you can just move into it, where there's a prediction that, okay, no, I think it's still coming later, that we could have a first billionaire solopreneur who can literally build a business as a single person using these kind of things, because now you can build agents for the finance department that talks to the HR department, that talks to whatever, based on how currently human beings are interacting to execute a value chain in an organization. So it's actually scary times. But like I said, we need to bring it back to context. And that example that I gave of banking is exactly what this is. You know, AI doesn't have context. It doesn't know that the people in Northwest, because it's a mining community, are more susceptible to respiratory infections. OpenAI doesn't know that. Microsoft doesn't know that. And some of the things could be even dynamics related to you as a person in your own household. So when you use AI in whatever space, always rationalize the social context and construct that you live in. And when you do that, you will get more out of AI. People also suffer from what we call behavioral bias. If I asked everyone here in the room to say, if you were to choose between R1 million right now and 10 million rand 5 years from now, I can guarantee you that more than half of you will take R1 million right now. Not because you don't know that 10 million rand in 5 years' time is a better choice and a rational choice, but because social context tell us that this is the state of South Africa's economy is here. People need the immediate relief. So they won't make a rational decision. Sorry if there's an economist in the room, people are not rational. Otherwise, discovery wouldn't exist. They pay you to go to gym. You should go to gym. You should eat healthy. You should drink water. But no one does it. People are not rational. So when you bring the reality of the world into AI, you get better than thinking that AI is this magical, perfect construct like economics one. Then you can move to the next slide. This is what I spoke about. The prediction is that we will have the first $1 billion 1% company by 2028. I'll leave it at that, but AI agents are starting to point us towards that direction. And this is the CEO of OpenAI, the one who built ChatGPT. If you can go to the next slide. Okay, how do you implement it? You need to understand your organizational capabilities. Where's my organization? Its maturity. And where are my people? You can never leave people behind. There are literally 3 pathways that are not so complicated with AI. Is that it will replace people completely for the simple mundane stuff, or it will improve your productivity like you guys are currently using ChatGPT, or you guys will continue overseeing what AI produces, like the example that was given, that there will always be a doctor on the loop, for example, even after the AI recommendation of what the scan says and the computer visioning. And that's where you need to fully understand to say, as AI is adopted in my organization from those 3 pathways, what does it mean for my people? How I need to reskill them, how I need to manage that change and take my people with, so that I get the best out of my people, because it will create even new jobs that we're not even thinking about today. And if you read the World Economic Forum jobs report of 2025, it gives us insights as to what those jobs look like. And I would recommend for everyone, for your own safety as a person, to look at that report so that you can know where you should be participating as you move forward here. Thank you. Next slide. I think it's the second or last slide. You can jump this slide. Sorry. We need to do this responsibly, colleagues. I think that's the simple, long and short of it. And to give you context, in my organization, for every AI model that gets implemented, and even the usage of things like ChatGPT and Copilot, we've got an AI policy that each and every employee has to sign to say they understand how this technology works and its limitation and how to use it and how to not use it. And this is linked to the human capital policy in terms of the consequences of misuse and inappropriate use that can put into jeopardy the data privacy elements of patient data. We deal with sensitive data in healthcare, so it's quite critical for us. But more than anything else, when you build any model, we build things like fraud module. You need to be able to explain the data that was used, what is the model that was used to build that particular or to train that particular model, and you need to be able to explain it, because I can't go to Dr. Vuyo tomorrow and say you are a fraudulent provider, I'm clawing back 2 million from you from what you claimed, and I can't explain to him why, and it's all because AI told me so. So I can't, for example, use certain AI models like neural networks that are harder to explain why I'm saying Dr. Vuyo is potentially fraudulent. So it is important to have the AI ethics and guardrails and understand your use cases and ensure that you measure all these things. We measure 57 things for each and every model. And as an information officer for the organization, I have to sign it before any model gets deployed. And we report on these elements, both on the data used, the technology used, to the biases and the fact that the model is fair, doesn't discriminate against certain genders or races and so forth, and that the outcomes have been considered from a risk and impact perspective. And there are 3 sets of reports that go to our IT and data committee that they can see that our practices on data and technology aligns with best practice and data privacy and POPIA and so forth. And one that goes into our ethics committee to say our AI practices aligns with protecting societal interests, and also our audit and risk committee to say we are compliant and there are no risks in what AI is putting out there. Imagine if I say Dr. Minehle AI says you should go under the knife tomorrow for this, and I'm only 30% sure, or I'm only 90% sure. You want me to be actually 100% sure with some of those decisions. So it is making sure that you implement these responsible AI scorecards that also empower the board in those 3 committees that I spoke to exercise oversight and their role as board subcommittees in overseeing your AI practices and your AI systems. So this is a critical way to implement sustainable AI in your organization in a way that won't land you into hot waters. Thank you so much. I think that was my last slide. I'm happy to take any questions and comments, colleagues. I think
thank you so much, Vunene. I think we've been schooled, all more than 200 of us who are tuned in right now. You just need to give us our certificates now on AI, because after this talk, I don't think there's anything we do not understand. So, Vunene, you mentioned towards the end of your talk things about ethics, the POPIA Act, and so on. I think most people are familiar with those. So since some of the people who are here who have joined us online on X or Instagram or here with us on Zoom or even Facebook, some of them are owners of small to medium enterprises. How do they then start adopting AI without maybe having huge budgets? Because I also heard you mentioning the rise or the upcoming AI agents. How do we make use of that?
Yeah. So, I mean, actually adopting AI is not very difficult. And I think the biggest trick lies in the slide where I spoke about the context, because actually for you to have access to ChatGPT now and have it create, say, even a business plan for you, it's actually cheap, and you can argue even free, right? You just need data and a device. And I think that is the most important thing, is to say, how do I take advantage of the money that OpenAI and Microsoft are spending? There are billions of dollars for their data center to train this model. And I only need to buy 30 Rand data to be able to go ask it a particular question. But after I've asked it the question, with a clarity of mind to say, this is my innovative idea of where I'm seeing a business opportunity, how do I bring the two together? That's where the magic lies, even for big corporates. So what big corporates do, they think actually they can plug and all will be honky-dory. And actually, that is not the case. People who have clarity of the opportunity that they've spotted and AI is helping them are the ones that win. And what it actually has done for small businesses is that actually big businesses no longer really have the glorified competitive advantage because they've got deep pockets, huge balance sheets, and so forth. It's now everyone can innovate and get a product out there tomorrow. And it's about that speed, the nimbleness, and understanding the domain that you are playing in. So it's actually cheaper but I think the ethical part is where you do need to be careful and utilize a scorecard. It doesn't have to be a complicated scorecard to say, what am I using? Do I understand how this thing was built? And I'm not going to get in trouble or make wrong conclusions.
Thank you so much, Bunene. Like you said, I think you've summed it up. Initially, you told us that it's no longer an issue of if, but an issue of how, right? So I guess all of us here who are in business won't be making, you said it's high school boy mistakes when it comes to AI. Okay, there is a question from people who are participating. So they're asking, how can we implement AI in township businesses and make our customers understand? For example, if you have a township business and you are in the clothing manufacturing space.
Yeah, so I think, I mean, from that perspective, digital is still the main ingredient in terms of how do you create a platform to be able to harness the data of the township economy, if you'd like. And I think the first starting point is to realize, to say, firstly, most of those people living in those spaces are now on digital devices, right? And how do you create a platform that doesn't require, for example, people to necessarily have formal products like a bank account to be able to participate in the digital economy? And you bridge that gap. The greatest advice of what we have seen, even on our side, because if you look at our customer spread, we've got people in mines, in townships for these healthcare products, is that WhatsApp is one of the most advisable channel to take advantage of. It is actually a greatly integrated offering that you can build a lot of these AI solutions into, and everyone is on WhatsApp. People buy WhatsApp bundles because they're talking to their families, their girlfriends, their boyfriends, their communities, and it's easier than trying to convince someone to download another application, which I feel like wants to use my other data, that will want an update every week. But at least WhatsApp is, you already have embed yourself into what is part of everyday life, and you'll be able to capture that market because it is already on that platform, and they are able to fund the data requirements of that platform because it fulfills the rest of their social requirements.
Thank you so much, Bunene. I don't think we have any further questions. Thank you very much. That was very insightful. I'll be introducing our next speaker. So our next speaker is Saul Bloch. He is a data scientist and an AI engineer with 8 years of experience driving business and data strategies across diverse industries and geographies through his work at Elucidate AI. As a fellow of the Actuarial Society, he brings a strong foundation in quantitative analysis and risk modeling, paired with hands-on experience in artificial intelligence. His work is particularly focused on fintech, where his team leverages on AI to help financial institutions integrate and analyze data from multiple sources, delivering insights that enhance both operational efficiency and strategic decision-making. So these innovations support day-to-day services such as decision-making. These innovations also help with payment processing, loan management, and consumer engagement, while they also uncover new opportunities for growth and competitive advantages in the market. So he will be taking us through future proofing of your businesses and adapting to AI-driven economy. Saul, you can take us through your presentation, please. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much for that introduction, and good afternoon, everyone. I am conscious of time, so I'll try to speak to this very interesting topic quite succinctly. Just to start, I just want to do a few thank yous. So, Mandela, hostess, thank you so much, and Monique for organizing, and the Proudly South Africa team. It is a great privilege to be speaking to you all today. My name is Saul. I am a data scientist at Elucidate AI. Very, very short background, but we're a strategic consultancy, and we help businesses leverage their data to unlock value through the use of data science, automation, and artificial intelligence. So just a very quick background is that I qualified as a fellow of the Actuarial Society of South Africa in 2020, and then I joined Elucidate AI at its infancy. And since then, we've built a team of smart, capable actuaries, data scientists, engineers who are building solutions, and currently we help power over $800 million worth of decisions across multiple industries and geographies. So as mentioned today, I want to talk about something that I think can feel both very exciting, but also intimidating at the same time: future-proofing your business in an AI-driven economy. So when people hear the words AI-driven economy, some can imagine robots taking over jobs, or highly complex algorithms that are controlled and understood only by the Elon Musks and Sam Altmans of the world. I want to offer a different lens today. I want you to see AI as not something that is abstract, but that is part of a story that we already know, and that is the story of tools. So I'll begin with that story and just showing us how every generation of tools has changed the way that we work and how it creates new opportunities. I then just want to spend the majority of my time sharing 5 practical strategies that we've seen work with our clients to help them embed AI successfully into their businesses. And I think that these are lessons and strategies that generalize quite well. And I think there's quite nice lessons in there that we can all learn from. The story of tools isn't new. We've lived through it before many times. And I want to start off with one that we all know, the calculator. So in the 1970s, when calculators started becoming popularized and more affordable, people worried that students wouldn't learn maths anymore, or that bookkeepers would lose their jobs. But what actually happened? The calculator freed people from spending hours of time doing arithmetic and gave them time to focus on analysis and decision-making. And next came Microsoft Excel. So with the popularization of this spreadsheet software as a tool in the 1980s and 90s, people worried that accountants would become redundant, but instead we can think about what Excel did for businesses. All of a sudden, trained staff with a basic computer could model scenarios, forecast budgets, and run calculations that used to require whole departments. Those companies' employees who embraced Excel became more valuable, and they weren't just bookkeepers anymore, but they were analysts and advisors and strategists. And the list goes on. And there's other specialized software like HR systems that manage staff records, and payroll automation like Sage and SAP. Accounting platforms like Xero and QuickBooks mean that you don't need to manually capture every receipt. So each of these tools created efficiencies, and each of them allowed businesses to scale, reduce errors, and redirect human energy to higher value work. And now we stand at the next step, being artificial intelligence. So just like the calculator, Excel, and payroll systems, AI is just another tool, but this time it is a tool that works with language, data, and decisions. And we've seen that every generation of tools didn't eliminate jobs, but instead it elevated what people can achieve. And each wave gave businesses the ability to scale, reduce errors, and unlock new opportunities. So now we need to ask ourselves, as we add artificial intelligence to the story of tools, what is the advantage it can create for us today? And it's been alluded to a lot with other speakers today, but the answer is efficiency. So for South African businesses and SMEs in particular, external pressures are a constant reality. Rising input costs, infrastructure gaps, and competitive markets that shift quickly. These are factors that no single business can control. But by contrast, there's one area that businesses can control, and that is how efficiently they use the resources they already have. And that's where artificial intelligence comes in. It allows us to achieve more with the resources we already have and give our people's time and energy to where it matters most. So in a world where competitors may have larger budgets or more resources, the real differentiator is agility and how quickly we can respond, and how intelligently you can allocate resources, and how efficiently you can serve your customers. So AI actually helps us level the playing field across these smaller teams that have a newfound power of scale, and larger teams that can now have the agility to move faster than ever before. So efficiency is now becoming the new competitive edge. And just one important point before I transition into the practical tips is that one of the biggest challenges that we've seen is that this transition into AI is rather difficult through a mindset. So essentially, when Excel arrived, many professionals initially resisted, and today it's almost unthinkable for an accountant not to use Excel, and AI is going to follow the same path. So artificial intelligence is not going to replace people, but people and the SMEs who use AI will replace those who don't. And if your competitors, say, sales team is using AI to analyze data and personalize outreach and optimize pricing, and you're still doing it manually, then over time, they are going to start outpacing you. I want to just draw on the work that we've done with multiple businesses, and we've seen a handful of strategies that set organizations up for successfully embedding AI into their operations and embrace the opportunities for an AI-driven future. I just want to go through 5 strategies that draw from real implementations with our clients. Interestingly, is that a couple of these do overlap with stuff that you've heard before. The first strategy I want to talk about is to start small. So one of the most common mistakes that we've seen is that businesses try to tackle everything all at once. They want a grand enterprise-wide transformation with AI. The truth is that those kind of projects often stall, and they overwhelm staff and stretch budgets, and they create resistance. The best approach is to start small, focus on one well-defined problem, a place where people are already struggling with inefficiencies, repetitions, or complexity. And by solving that one problem, you create proof of value through AI, and you start to build confidence, and you create champions inside the organization who begin to advocate for further adoption. And this is exactly what we've seen with a lead generation company that we've worked closely with. Their challenge was making decisions about what campaign to run and when to run them and how much to spend. And up until we started working with them, decisions were based on manual spreadsheets and gut feelings. Together, we built a forecasting dashboard that compares lifetime revenues with acquisition costs and ranks campaigns by expected impact. At first, we started small. We built a dashboard that was a decision support tool, something that the team could use to reason through choices. And then after initial adoption and trust has been established, then we can build other more impressive items like AI agent layers on top, which allows the team to interact with the forecast in natural language, asking questions like, which campaign should I prioritize this week? And getting real-time data-driven answers. So the lesson here is simple. Don't try to leap straight to a fully automated AI grand solution. Start with a tool that helps your people make better decisions, let them build confidence in it, and then extend over time. And this over here is how you can create sustainability with AI. Strategy number 2 is to upskill your people. So this is all about investing in your people. And too often what we've seen is that companies treat data science and AI as the responsibility of the IT team or something that is confined for specialists. The truth is that the greatest benefit comes when everyone in the business understands how to use AI in their day-to-day role. And this doesn't mean that every employee needs to become a fully trained mathematician and data scientist. What it means is giving them the skills to use AI tools for their own tasks. And this can be for drafting reports or for preparing presentations or summarizing calls, processing routine transactions. So when employees feel that AI is helping them rather than threatening them, then adoption happens quite naturally. So a good example comes from the underwriting space. Here, traditionally, claim processing requires staff to work off printed documents and manually enter information into underwriting systems. And this is quite slow and repetitive and error-prone. So we've worked with the client to build a solution. It's called an OCR-based solution, and it automatically matches data from documents into system fields. And the key here is we didn't remove people from the loop. Underwriters were trained to review the AI's work, check inputs, and flag corrections. And after a short upskilling period, each agent was able to process up to 5 times as many claims per hour. So here, AI didn't replace their role, but rather it amplified it. The third strategy, which ties in what I discussed as well, is to combine AI and human strengths. So in its current form, we need to acknowledge that AI excels at processing data, identifying patterns, and repeating tasks with perfect consistency. Humans, by contrast, excel at judgment, creativity, and empathy. And when you put these strengths together, you can build something that utilizes the best of both worlds. And this balance is critical. So what we've seen is that too often businesses fall into one of two extremes, traps. They either lean too heavily on AI and risk mistakes when nuance is lost, or they ignore AI altogether and keep people tied up in routine tasks that machines can do faster. And the winning formula is a partnership. So, by example, I want to take an HR company that we've worked closely with. Their challenge is having to screen thousands of CVs for every single job posting, and the process consumed entire days. But by introducing an AI system, they were able to scan and shortlist applications just within minutes. But the recruiters are still central to this entire process. So they interview the candidates, they assess cultural fit, and they make the final decision. So AI didn't replace them, it cleared away some of the admin so that these recruiters can spend more time on the human side of recruitment. I want to go into the fourth and penultimate strategy, which is all about remaining agile. So as mentioned before, artificial intelligence is evolving at a remarkable pace, and new tools are appearing every month. And what was cutting edge a year ago might be outdated today. And businesses that future-proof themselves are not the ones that pick one tool and declare victory. They're the ones that build the culture and the systems to keep learning, experimenting, and adapting. So agility doesn't mean chasing every shining object. What it means is setting aside the time and the space for small experiments, evaluating results, and scaling what works, and remaining flexible. So we've seen this firsthand with an open banking provider that we work with. So initially, we built solutions for automated affordability assessments, credit assessments for consumer lending. And here we use traditional data science approaches. This was about 4 or 5 years ago. And these solutions worked really well. But as generative AI advanced, we started to rework elements of those solutions with newer methods, making them faster, more scalable, and more intuitive for the end users. So because this partner company has embraced an agile mindset, they didn't cling to the old way of doing things, and they adapted along with us, and in order to do so, and in doing so, delivered better results for their clients. And finally, the last strategy that I want to talk to is something that I call measure impact, not hype. So the world of AI is surrounded by noise. Every week, there are headlines that promise breakthroughs and disruption, and it's very tempting just to jump on the bandwagon for the sake of it. But if you adopt AI just for optics, you risk wasting money and time. And the businesses that exceed are the ones that start off with strategy and not technology. So these businesses begin by asking, what is the business problem we're trying to solve, and why are we solving this problem? And only once it is clear, then they assess whether AI or an AI solution is the best way forward. Perhaps there's another solution, or there's a more effective workaround. So at Elucidate AI, we always start by engaging at the strategic level with our clients. We map out the outcomes that they want, and only then do we design technical solutions. And sometimes that solution is rooted in AI, and that is the right answer. Other times it might be a process redesign or a simpler automation that will deliver more value and for a lot less time or effort. And the key is to focus on outcomes, not hype. So when you can point to hours saved, fewer mistakes, stronger revenues, or new opportunities, AI stops becoming just a buzzword and it becomes a real business asset. So these 5 strategies: start small, upskill your people, combine human strengths with AI strengths, stay agile, and measure impact, not hype. They may sound straightforward, but put together, they are powerful because they build the right habits around AI adoption, and they help businesses adopt AI in a way that is practical, sustainable, and focused on value. So if there's one thought that I want to leave you with today, it's this, is that artificial intelligence is not a distant future, it is here, and it also is practical and tangible. So for South African businesses and SMEs, embracing it now means competing smarter, operating leaner, and creating new opportunities. So thank you all.
Thank you so much, Scott. That was very insightful. You gave us real life examples, right, which were very comforting. I think even those who are in business, but maybe we're still anti-AI, will be at ease and will probably start using AI going forward in their businesses. You've mentioned examples of how calculators came in and how they made life better for students and those who were doing mathematics, or how Excel came in and made those who embraced it to become more valuable. And I think what you were saying ties in with what Vukosi was also saying, that if you don't use AI, you stand at a disadvantage of not thriving in your business, because that's where the world is going. So we need to take advantage of this. So I think everything was clear on my side, and I like how you summarized the 5 points at the end. But my most favorite thing that you said was how we should measure impact and not the hype. We do have, though, a question from an attendee. It says, with your 5 strategies, how can we implement them in a township-based business? For example, could be your textiles, clothing manufacturing.
Yeah, I see that question has come up a couple of times. So it is really interesting. I do really like the answer that came earlier, which is focusing on distribution as a starting point, as opposed to focusing on a particular solution. So it is the case that WhatsApp and the apps that exist on your phone are the starting point for a lot of companies to be able to actually engage and interact with consumers in a much easier way, as opposed to ensuring that someone downloads a new application. So I think the starting point is very much on the distribution and how we can actually put a solution in front of as many people as possible, as easy as possible. And I think using existing distribution channels is quite an important one. I'm just going to run through my 5 points or lessons or strategies, and just see how each of them are relevant. In terms of starting small and not trying to overhaul an existing process, I think that applies not only to townships, but to any business in general, especially in the South African context. I think what this means is essentially starting off with, what is your biggest headache every single day? What's the one thing that you don't want to do because it takes up time, but it's not really adding value? And that's the starting point. So starting where there is a defined inefficiency and seeing, all right, is there a solution out there that exists that can reduce repetition or plug in here? And the answer might be quite apparent if this is the way you're thinking, or it might require a bit of research, and that can be using generative AI tools like Gemini or ChatGPT. Or it could be to just get on a phone call and chat to someone who's been in the space. And we're always open to conversations as someone who's built a lot and been working across various industries. So I think starting small is quite a relevant one in that space. Let's see if there's another strategy that talks to it specifically. Yeah, I guess it talks very closely to the one that you defined as the best, the last one that I mentioned, which is measuring impact, not hype. So I think, once again, it's just about thinking critically about what it is that you would like to see, whether it is a revenue increase or a cost inefficiency that you want to get reduced, or some other very niche thing within your pipeline that is causing an inefficiency, and starting there with saying, all right, if I were to reduce it or increase it or change it in a certain way, what would that look like? And then if you start from the solution and work down towards the actual what or how or the AI tool, that's generally the best way that we've seen to solve problems.
Thank you very much, Sol. I think that was loud and clear. So thank you very much for the presentation. Like I said, it was insightful. We'll now be wrapping up because we are 10 minutes over time. So thank you to those of you who joined in, whether it was through social media platforms. Please tag us, do comment, tell us what you've learned, and so on, right? And the video will be at some point on the Proudly South African YouTube page, so you can always go back there and sit down, take notes, regurgitate the information. So if you haven't started following us on X, please do. It's at Proudly South African, so Proudly SA. And on IG, which is Instagram, it's proudly.sa. And on Facebook, it's Proudly South African. We also have a LinkedIn page, so you can also join the conversation on LinkedIn, tag us, say what you've learned, what was your favorite part of the discussion, and how you will be implementing the strategies that were shared today. So like I said, LinkedIn, it's Proudly South African. You will be able to find it on LinkedIn. Also, please do visit the Proudly South African website, which is www.proudlysouthafrican.co.za. Or if you just type Proudly South African on Google, you should be able to find the website, and then you can learn about how to join Proudly South African and what exactly your products need to be for what they need to have for you to be compliant, right? And for you to have that beautiful Proudly South African logo on your products. So just a brief summary. I think we heard from Raphael, and he spoke so much about how we can make legislation easy using AI, dealing with those tedious documents, contracts. Please do explore the website. He did share it, and I am banking on the fact that you took note of it. Like I said, if you didn't, you can always go back to the YouTube video once it's available. We also had Dr. Vuyo, who also shared insights on how AI will soon be, or has the potential of being, fully explored in the medical health sector. And then also Vukosi took us through AI. I feel like he gave us an AI MBA in a few minutes there. And I think we learned a lot of terminology that we can make use of. And more than anything, I think we should take it upon ourselves to also go now and read about the POPIA Act and the ethics around AI, because I think we are all in agreement that going forward, for your small or medium enterprises, you should be incorporating AI. And then, of course, our last speaker, which was Sol, also touched on the importance of future-proofing your businesses. So I guess from all the speakers, we can all agree that AI is not here to replace us. It's here to empower us, and that businesses and people who adapt AI the fastest will be the ones who actually survive in business and thrive with the opportunities that come with AI. So I would like to say, let's embrace AI boldly, build on our skills, create value, and ensure that South Africa's future is both digital and proudly human. And remember our hashtag, as you will be posting on social media. The slogan for Proudly South African is "Buy local to create jobs," which is the hashtags. Thank you so much for your attention and your time. Bye-bye.